Hi, my name's William Church. I'm from the Jersey Royal Company. I'm joined today by my daughter Neve, who is going to be helping out. We're here on the beautiful island of Jersey, and I'm going to be talking to you a lot about Jersey, about Jersey Royal new potatoes, and about conservation, a little bit about cover crops, about hedgerows, and also an exciting new project that we're working on as well. So I'm going to flip the camera around and show you a couple of picture shots. So this is the iconic shot from Jersey, Montorgueil Castle. We've got this beautiful sweeping round landscape across Greville Bay. Jersey's a fantastic place to live, and we've got an island 9 miles by 5, so it's 45 square miles, but Jersey more than doubles when we're on a big tide. So you see the harbour there, it's full of water, but actually we have the sea go out for a couple of miles at a time when you're on a big tide. And it's down in the bay here, Greville Bay, that we also pick up seaweed, known locally as vrac, that we put onto the soils, which helps really with, it's got a whole lot of nutrients which adds to the soil and helps the soil structure, but it's also really good on lighter soils, free draining soils, particularly on the west of the island, when it's adding organic matter, and it helps with moisture retention. So hopefully there's going to be a few people joining us any second. I think we're soon coming around to 10 o'clock. I see somebody's already online. Just waiting for them to join, but we're in a field here. Now these coatees, it's the name for steep slope. It's an old Jersey French name, and so we farm off these coatees, which is quite an incredible way of farming. So this here has got a cover crop on it at the minute, but this did have potatoes which got lifted in the middle of April. So if you're already watching, I'm probably going to repeat some of this, but I just wanted to get up and running and just filling in a little bit of time until we get to 10 o'clock and we start for real. So you see that? Beautiful shot, that. So I'm going to just turn this around back to me. So good morning everybody, wearing my Open Farm Sunday t-shirt. It gets an annual outing. Quite an exciting day this. It's the first time that LEAF Open Farm Sunday has been done online. My name is William Church and I work for the Jersey Royal Company. So as the name suggests, we do a lot of Jersey Royal new potatoes. Now, I'll be straight up, I might be doing this video and I may well meet and engage with a lot of you along the way, but I am not the farmer. We're a big farming organisation. We employ up to 400 plus people at the height of the season, and we've got a team of people who are the experts at farming. So I'm the spokesperson, doing my bit to help out with LEAF Open Farm Sunday today on the 7th of June, and quite an exciting moment. So this here I'm going to talk a little about. So this slope here, I'm going to just flick it round. We're in the southeast corner of Jersey. So this place is called Gorey, that's Gorey Castle, also known as Montorgueil Castle. And this slope that we're stood on here, so you can see it's a long sweeping slope going across here. And this does get used to grow potatoes. And you might say, how? Well, the whole thing is done very much by hand. So at the top here, on the roadside, there would be a tractor with a winch and pulley system. And literally we have a man who will run down to the bottom of the slope, right down to the bottom there. He will then be dragged back up the slope using a plough to plough potatoes out, to plough the field, and all of this gets planted by hand. This field was planted at the beginning of January, so the middle of January, and we harvested it around the middle of April. And as we lift out the potatoes, we have already prior to that, so it's got a big crop of potatoes growing in the field here, and as we're about to come in and lift it, we cut the top of the potatoes off, the haulm off using a strimmer, and we then broadcast loosely by hand the cover crop that we're going to put in. And on this occasion we've got just barley in here, and so you can see that it's already forming an ear. And the reason we use barley as a cover crop is that it's very, very quick to germinate. So that's quite important because we're on a steep slope. During the rest of the year we can get rainfall, and therefore there could be soil erosion, there could be wind erosion, and barley is very quick to germinate, so it fixes the soil, which is very important to us. But the other thing about barley is it gets a good cover going across the whole slope, and this will be left here all year and will just build a big load of biomass. In the past we have used other mixes where we've planted in and amongst the barley, we've planted vetch, we've planted beans, which all help with fixing nitrogen. But on this occasion, we've just gone with barley on this slope. You've got a bit of charlock in there, but that's no bad thing, because actually if we look around, you'll probably find a few pollinators, which we can already, if we hone in here, you can see a few things which are living on the barley leaves. So this is creating a wonderful habitat for nature. We're pretty good at growing fat hen during the off season as well, so there's a bit of fat hen there, charlock. But anyway, this referring up to here, so my daughter who's helping out today, Neve, here is holding the wheel. So we're talking integrated farm management, and on this slope we're already talking about soil management and fertility, because as I said, the cover crops are really, really important to us. And this is just one example of cover crop we do, but we do a whole load of different cover crops for various reasons. And we actually use biofumigants on some of the larger flat fields, where when we harvest the caliente mustard, the hot mustard, it's putting a lot of biomass back into the ground, which is fantastic, but it's also releasing a biofumigant into the soil, which helps us with the control of PCN. Also here we're talking crop health and protection, so managing the ground, pollution control, so we don't want to have wind erosion, taking the top of the soil off, landscape and nature conservation, and water management. When you've got a cover crop in, cover crops are fantastic helping in water management. Not so much on a slope such as this, because this is free draining, but certainly when you've got larger fields, which we're monocropping potatoes year after year. So Jersey Royal new potatoes going in year after year on many of the same fields. So this will be harvested every single year, this field. And we've got to do our bit to try and help the soil and do good soil management, so that we know that we've got a fertile seed bed for the following year. But as I said, onto the flatter land, when you've done your crop of potatoes, we might plant back. We work very closely with a lot of dairy farmers, so we plant a lot of grass, and that's used for winter fodder. They'll also have maize going into the ground, which we use to make silage. And we use a number of other cover crops as well, but they help with water management because they're taking up the moisture during the off season, because we'll have a cover crop growing for maybe 8-9 months before it gets ploughed in, and we're then preparing the ground for the next year. We're going to try a couple of ambitious things here, so we're actually going to go to another couple of locations on this trip, so hang with me because I'm going to have to jump in the car and keep driving. So daughter's just getting back into the car. Coming round here, and I'll keep talking to you a little bit about Jersey as we go. So Jersey, I've got my wife on board and I've got my other child as well. But Jersey is an island 9 miles by 5, so covering 45 square miles. Over a third of the cultivatable land mass of Jersey is covered in potatoes each year. But as I explained, we do also work quite closely with dairy farmers, so we might put in a cash crop effectively of potatoes, and then it's going into fodder crop afterwards. So there is crop rotation in a way, although, as I said, we are monocropping potatoes year after year. Jersey, it's a wonderful place to live, but there's also lots of roads. There's over 500 miles of road on the island, so our average field size is only a couple of acres, and that presents its own challenges with having to manoeuvre around all the machinery we need to grow Jersey Royal new potatoes. But the other thing, of course, is when you've got lots of small fields, you've also got a lot of hedgerows. And we're just coming into another field here, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about hedgerow management as well, after we first look at some potatoes. So we're all going to be getting out here because the whole family's, we've got social distancing, so obviously I've got to be a bit careful about who else is helping me out today. So I've got the whole family on board today, and they're all going to be playing their part along the way. So bear with me. It's actually a really, really busy time of the year for us, and Jersey Royal potatoes, seasonal crop, we have about 9 months of the year when we are off season, and 3 months of the year when we are on season and we're digging the potatoes and trying to make our money. So if I flip this around again, We're in a field, these are much later planted, so I am going to stick a fork in the ground. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Jersey roll production. So this is looking quite healthy. We've had a very difficult season. It started off that the last quarter of 2019 was very, very wet. And then when we got around to planting on the slopes, which I've just shown you in one of the coatees, it was still very wet. Planting on the slope is not a problem because they're free draining, and that's all well and good. But getting onto the flat land, particularly in February, we suffered some real battles, and there were actually a couple of weeks when we didn't manage to plant at all. We're on a sequential planting program to keep everything real and to make sure that we can always get a fresh crop of potatoes. So I'm just going to hand the camera over to my wife here. And I'm on a lead, so we don't have to social distance, but I have got a mic on so it can keep it, you can keep hearing me. So I'm just putting on a pair of gloves. But this crop was planted quite a bit later. Something else I'd like to point out today. So we are a big team of people working, and I'm just the spokesperson, as I said. This is the first time in over a month that our farming boys have actually had a day off, which has been incredible. We've been working massive long hours. So at times they've been working from 6 a.m. in the morning till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. So it's putting in some really, really big shifts because we're at the height of our season. Ordinarily that would be May, but this year, because of the disrupted planting in February, that meant that the whole thing was pushed back 3 or 4 weeks. And so we're at peak sort of picking at the moment. We've actually got to a stage that we're slightly on top of the crop, and so we've had a breather today. We've gone through May, where we had effectively best part of 5 weeks with no rain. We've had a few mil come down in the last week, which is all going to help as much as anything else. It's a respite, but it has been very, very hot, and so they've actually got a day off today. Henceforth, you've got me. If you've got questions, Leaf Open Farm Sunday is a wonderful way of engaging with the community, and if you've got questions, by all means, put them in there. I'll have a look later on and I'll come back to you. So you can ask me about coatees, you can ask me about Jersey as a whole, you can ask me about cover crops and other ones that we use. Ask me about potatoes, Jersey roll new potatoes, the best in the world. Ask me about what we're going to come on to next, some of the environmental projects that we work on and hedgerows. But right here, I'm going to stick a fork in the ground, and then you're going to get my son coming in who's going to help me dig a few of these. So fork going into the ground. And if my wife would like to hone in here, and hopefully I won't trip over the thing, you see, so coming up here, for those that don't know so much about potatoes, I know a lot of you out here probably are potato farmers, but that there, so this is a number 1 or a 0, it's a very small potato. We actually hand grade all of our seed potatoes into 5 different sizes, and the reason that we do that, if you stand back a second, the reason if you do that is that when we plant a field of potatoes, all of the seed is the same size. And the reason for that is that we're effectively trying to force these crops to come a little bit earlier. And by forcing them, we want them to all mature at the same time. So we're working on a life cycle of about 12 weeks. But at the moment, as I said, we're slightly on top of the crop. We're actually digging a lot of stuff on around 10 weeks. Here you can see we've got wonderful tuber numbers. So if my wife hones in again, you've got the mother tuber there, the mummy potato, and then you've got all this wonderful network of or mass of other potatoes in here. So we're actually going to take some of these home. My son here, George, give a wave to the camera, say hello to Nanny and Pops.
Hi.
Right, so we're going to just take these off because these will be absolutely beautiful to eat, and there's no point putting them back in the ground because they're not going to grow anymore because I've dug it up. But we're going to take these off and take them home. They'll be particularly sweet, so I'm quite looking forward to that. Just lift that up, take those back. It's going to be a very small feed, this. But as I said, this is all part of our sequential planting. So this isn't due to be lifted for another 3-4 weeks at least, I would think, looking at the size of these. I can't remember the exact planting date of this field, but we'll just pick up these tiddlers here. We call these chats, and now a lot of that would fall away, but actually chats, I mean, they take so little time in the pan, and they're really sweet. So we'll just stick those in the bag there, George. And that is all good. Something else that we've incorporated this year, it's been a really, really exciting 10 days with Leaf because I don't know whether you tuned in last week, but on last Thursday, we were upgraded, awarded, recognised for a lot of the work that we do with Leaf. And we were given the status of the 40th Leaf demonstration farm. So that was a very exciting day. And we do a lot of community engagement. We do a lot of environmental projects. And one of the other things that we have got this year, so this is our own pack of potatoes, and And I'm very proud to say that we've got the LEAF Marque logo onto the pack there. So this you can find in 5, 6 of our pack, the Jersey Royal New Potato Company pack. You can find that. It's got the PDO. So the PDO is Protected Designation of Origin, which is part of the Protected Food Name Scheme, and that recognises the extraordinary lengths that we do to grow a potato. And it also recognises the fact that whereas you've got PGI down in Cornwall, Pembroke and Ayrshire on potatoes, they're talking about an area growing potatoes, but we're growing the same potatoes year after year, and it's Jersey Royal New Potatoes. So it's a very particular product, and it's also recognising the ways and the lengths that we do to grow it. Right, I'm going to take control of the camera again when I unhook myself. So what I'm going to do next, mind that guys, you can get back in the car, or Neve's going to come with me actually. So as I said, we are farming about 1,800 fields us as a business, and hedges are an important part. So whilst we want potatoes, there's another field there, we want lots of potatoes out of here because that's what we're doing to make money, but we also spend quite a bit of time about hedgerow management. So again, looking on this, back to the landscape and nature and conservation, water management as well, but also hedges play a really important part from two things. We're here up above Goree and it's quite exposed, and so therefore the wind does whistle across here, and we're on the southeast corner of the island, but the most damaging thing to a crop of potatoes is the northeast winds, and we got really hit by northeast winds this year actually through Storm Kiara, who came through. She wasn't very kind to us. That lifted a lot of plastic, ripped a lot of plastic, but it whistled across, and it did cause a fair amount of damage. But also after we'd taken the covers off some of the early crops, again it was whistling across, and northeast winds are really, really drying, so they're sucking moisture out. So that's where hedgerows come in. From us, from a farming point of view, from potatoes, hedgerows are really good because they act as windbreaks. So you'll get protection on the lee side, and it's helping soil erosion after you've dug this. So this will go into a cover crop, but it's helping with the general management. And then the environmental part, of course, is the fact you've got a thick hedgerow here. We can go into it, and this is hawthorn. We've also got in and amongst this, which is quite a technique that we do. There's an oak tree there coming along here. We tend to put other trees in the hedges. There's an ash, right? And we put these, that's a fairly young ash, still got its guard on there, which will get taken off later. But we grow these because they help with wildlife management. And this past winter, we actually worked on a project with the National Trust of Jersey, and we planted over 10 miles of hedgerow. A really exciting project to get in, so it's great for community engagement to talk about positive projects. But here you can see this is a very young hedge, so we planted 2 rows of hawthorn in here, and the reason for that is we want to get a really thick hedge, so that'll be great for when it's more mature, that you'll get birds coming in and nesting in the hedges, but it also provides a climate for all of the other wildlife that wants to live in and around it. We've got a lot of verges, and here you can see the verge row, and we have to, in Jersey, it's the landowner's responsibility. So whilst we work with about 120, 130 landlords on the island, we actually, as part of the rental agreement, offer to look after the hedgerows and the verges. So we'll have to come along on this and flail it. We have a thing in Jersey called broncage, which happens twice a year, when the parish authorities come around and inspect to make sure that you're doing the job of looking after the hedgerows. And if you've got grass which is falling into the road, or you've got trees which are overhanging, you actually get a fine. So it's something we take quite seriously, and we'll be coming along later on and cutting those hedges, or the banks as it were. But it's something which is quite an emotional topic around here, and people do get a bit upset if you cut them too. I'm just going to focus in on this lovely bank, so really, really full of lots of activity going on here. If you delved in amongst this, there'd be a whole load of wildlife going on. But back in the past, there used to be sort of a train of thought that everybody wanted to really strip their banks back very tightly, but that caused a bit of upset because people were worried about hedgehogs, they were worried about other wildlife, and saying, well, it's not really been very kind. And we took on board that, and we had a meeting through the Jersey Farmers Union with interested parties. So there are environmentalists who came along, and we basically agreed new guidelines. So whereas you've got quite a thick bank here, in the past maybe we'd have flailed the whole lot of this, but actually we'll probably only flail it up to about this point here, and we'll leave, so this point here, halfway out the bank, and then we'll leave the rest of it, because then the wildlife can stay in that, and we'll have done our bit, the legal part of clearing the bit along by the roadside. So there is quite a lot of community engagement. It's a very positive story. Open Farm Sunday for us is usually a wonderful time when we can invite local politicians, civil servants to come along, and we get a good 500 people, and we also get a number of tourists who actually come along and engage with us as well. So we're jumping in the car. Very ambitious this. They always say if you're filming, stick to one set, don't film with children. We've got those on board. Don't film with animals. We're not doing that today, but we are reversing out onto the road here, because you might remember on the teasers that I put out, I said that we were going to talk a little bit about conservation. We're going to talk about IFM in general. We're going to talk about Jersey Royal new potatoes, because that's our main business. But we have actually got another really exciting project, which I'm going to go and talk to you about now. So we've got to go for a little drive around the corner. Better put my seatbelt on, don't want Plod catching me out. Because crop rotation, and not that this next one is actually rotation, it's a crop that we've put in, which is going to be a really exciting export, we hope, for Jersey. We'll talk about that later. But crop rotation, so potatoes going in year after year, but we work closely with the dairy farmers, putting in grass, maize, and then other cover crops we do. I showed you there earlier on, for those that missed it, on the coatee we had some barley in, which is very quick to germinate, and it's also cheap, which is another great thing. Cover crops are useful for helping to fix the soil, but also biomass, which you can then plough back into it. So we've planted mixes which have included vetch, which have included beans, peas, so legumes, which are helping fix nitrogen. And this year, actually, on the back of a LEAF training day, which we helped host last year, with Ian Robertson came over, and he said, have we ever grown oats? So we're going to try oats this year, because they've got a really good root structure which goes down into the soil and helps break up the soil as much as anything else. So you're working with the soil as well as growing something which is producing a whole load of biomass, which you can then plough back into it. So really useful soil management. We also do a number of other crops such as Phacelia. Phacelia is really eye-catching, that lovely blue flower, great for pollinators. So that's very popular. The hot mustards, which have the yellow flower, great for pollinators, and a whole load of other insects that are going into that. And I'm just going to drive down here. And we work with a local charity called Birds on the Edge, and there's an amazing lady, Christina Celeres, who she is part of that, and she basically came up with different bird mixes, which are, we've got a lot of migratory birds that stop off in Jersey, so I've just got to make sure I get on my wires. And we have worked out, or she has worked out, flight paths. And so on the flight paths, we will go and plant bird mixes. So they'll have sunflowers in, they'll have millet in, a whole load of different bits and pieces, which are a wonderful habitat for lots of forms of wildlife, but also particularly for different birds. And they're long flowering. Something else we did a lot of last year was forage radish. Now the idea of the forage radish was putting it in after the crop of potatoes. We were hoping that long taproot was going to go down and break up the pan, because we've got quite a mix of different soil types in Jersey. We've got very sandy soils in the west of the island, of course, and it's fine. So you might have the top 12 inches, 18 inches, but underneath that you get a very hard, sort of compacted area. So we want to try and break that up, and we were hoping that taproot was going to break through, but it didn't work as well as we were hoping to. And you've got to try these things out. And we're going to certainly do more of that, but we mix it up with other crops in it. Anyway, back to the second crop that I was talking about, which is quite exciting, and it starts with a T, and actually it is tea. So tea, Jersey tea. We have got, and I will just focus down here, this was the very first tea plant planted outdoors in Jersey. So it's a crop that we know grows well here. It's part of the rhododendron family, and this was planted on the 4th of May, so that's Star Wars Day, the 4th of May 2017, and we've had a bit of a challenge with some of the tea, so I'm actually going to take you over some better ones. We put it in and we didn't really know what we were doing. We've taken counsel from a number of experts, but we've been a little bit blind leading the blind as to how we're planting it. These are quite wide plantings, and the idea here was we thought we were going to pick all round the tea, but later plantings we put slightly closer together, so we're looking for a tabletop. And this is something which is quite incredible. So we're in a corner of this field. This is a sloping field. It's still in the southeast of the island, so it catches a lot of the early sun. It wasn't perhaps the best field for doing potatoes. It had quite a lot of stone in it, so it was pretty free draining. Something we've learned about tea. So if you think about tea, you've always got a vision of maybe in Sri Lanka, places like that where a lot of tea production comes from. They're sort of monsoon areas. Tea likes moisture, it likes rain, but it doesn't like to sit in water. So being on a side of a slope is good that it's free draining, but we are also having to water, because if it doesn't get the water, then the tea won't grow so well. But this year is the first year that we're doing a little bit more plucking and processing, and hopefully this will become another exciting export. So I'm just going to flick around here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a tea plant, so let's go and hone in on one. So we're looking, you can see this one here, so an expert who's come in to help us, but here you can see that she's already been plucking here to take the tips of the plant out, and this is another one growing here. So let's find darker in this one's had a bit of wind burn, you see here, but it's growing quite well. And these plants here, so when the beast from the east came through, it hammered our tea plants and they got really quite badly affected. But this area here, incredible, but this area here, just because it's got the shelter from those trees there, as it came whistling in, these didn't get hit. So these are actually coming in to be some quite productive tea plants. And originally we planted it slightly wider apart, thinking we were going to maybe pluck all around the tea plant, but that comes very, very difficult when people have got to bend over. So we're now trying to get it so we've got a tabletop to go and pluck from. We will mow in between, but at the moment we're just leaving this here, and we will mow in between. But something else about tea which you may not know. Now, you're used to drinking black tea, but we've got black tea, we've got green tea, and we've got white tea that we've done. Focusing in on it, I've just got also a little shout out to Genuine Jersey. Genuine Jersey is an organisation over here which helps promote products from Jersey, and so we've been working with them. They've given us a little bit of support, as we think this is going to be quite an exciting export, high-end tea. But you actually get black, green and white all off the same bush, and it's just a question of when you pluck those leaves. So the first really immature leaves, they're white tea, and I'm no expert on this. As I said, we've got Alicia who's fantastic at all of this, and she's processing more of it this year. So we did a few samples last year. It's been a revelation for me. I like drinking a cup of tea in the morning, black tea. Didn't really know a lot about it, but drinking teas, white teas, green teas, I thought was all a bit weird, but actually it's a very different drink, and it's a lovely drink. And so hopefully going forward you'll be able to look out for Jersey fine tea and be able to buy some of that as well. So it's going to be high-end tea, and there's a great trend. There's more tea being drunk these days than there is actually coffee. So it sits in, it's using some of the fields which I said weren't perhaps so productive for potato production, and we've got three plantations. So there's one here in Gorey, there's one on the north of the island, there's another one more in the centre part of the island, and they've actually got their tea is a plant just like vines and wine. You get the terroir helping the taste of the tea or help the taste of the wine. The same applies to tea, and actually you can tell the slight distinctions between the different places that we are plucking these, and it may well be that we do a blend, so it's just Jersey tea, or we might do one specifically to Booley or to Gorey or whatever it is. So we're still playing with ideas, but we're going to be doing a little bit more production this year, and it's probably going to be another couple of years before we really are up to full production and hopefully making some money out of it. So it's been quite an investment. So we've had to put drip lines into all of it, and we've learned quite a lot along the way. Something else over here in the background, just flicking around. We learned that whilst we want to, manage hedgerows, fantastic. We've got a lovely hedgerow here, which is doing no harm at all, and it's got its benefit. But there's rabbit fencing. We found that rabbits really like young tea plants, and so we've had to put a whole load of rabbit fencing around all of the tea plantations to stop the rabbits coming in, because they were having a right old munch, and it was causing quite a problem. So that's probably all I've got time to say today, but my name is William Church, spokesperson for the Jersey Royal Company today on LEAF Open Farm Sunday. If you've got questions about Jersey Royal new potatoes, if you've got questions about tea, by all means put them into the LEAF Open Farm site, and I'll have a look later on and do my best to go and answer them. But it's not me, I am not the farmer, it's not my business. I'm just doing this bit for LEAF and engaging with LEAF as I love to do. I think there are some very, very clever farmers out there, and it's really exciting working with LEAF and learning from each other, because we're doing a couple of unusual projects such as tea or growing potatoes on a slope, and we'll have people come across here and they think, well, this is crazy, why do you do all of that? And there are reasons we do it, and ultimately we're all into farming to try and make a bit of money, but we can all learn from each other. So I've been on wonderful tours to other demonstration farms and learn little bits from them. It's a mindset, it's a way of thinking. So it's been an exciting journey for us. As I said last week, we were absolutely delighted when we were awarded demonstration farm status, the 40th one, and thank you very much to Caroline and His Excellency the Lieutenant Governor of Jersey who did the official opening there. And you'll be able to look back through the LEAF social channels and have a look at that as well. But it's been great catching up with you today, talking a little bit about our involvement with LEAF, about LEAF Marque, the fact that we've got it on our potato packs, talking about what we do for environmental projects in and around the fields, and also the way that we use cover crops. Always happy to have visitors, so if you're out there and you're over in Jersey, by all means give us a shout and we'll hopefully be able to show you a few of the projects we're on. So anyway, William Church, the Jersey Royal Company, I'm going to be signing off now. I'll just give you another sweep. That's looking over there behind you. So that's other tea plants you see. You've got the rows, and they've got quite a lot of growing to do. But it's really, really exciting project. So it's another crop and another product we're going to be exporting. So that's it. So thank you very much for listening. If you've got questions, put them in and I'll do my best to answer them. But William Church signing out. Enjoy the rest of Online Farm Sunday, and I look forward to listening to and watching some of those later as well. Cheerio.